Alrighty, folks. I hope you are consuming all kinds of Codie Sanchez material. I think she's doing a wonderful service, getting all of us excited about buying boring businesses. I do agree that there's plenty of folks that are getting ready to retire, right? The baby boomers, and nobody's there to buy it. Why don't you buy it? Well, folks, Codie Sanchez has a framework called SOWS, SOWS. We're going to have the one and only Bo Eckstein break it down for us and talk about her framework. Bo, thank you for doing this, man.
All right, you're welcome. Yeah, not only is Codie a phenomenal content creator, she's also really smart. And
Yeah,
so
she's
she's
wicked smart, man.
yeah.
Wicked smart.
And so you got to watch her from not only like what she's done in the social world, right? How she's taken her message and now everybody knows her name, which I think is unbelievable, but also her business mind is unbelievable. And I'm just following her acquisitions and what she's buying, and it's interesting. She's like part of that, I think, Beehive, which is a newsletter company. I mean, what she's
She's
doing is
behind it, yeah.
phenomenal. She owns a podcast production company. She's probably doing her own podcast production, right? And what else? Then she's letting other people use it, which she's basically creating amazing content for free and making money from it. So it's like really smart things she's doing. And so her framework, as I was doing some research, is on the SOWS is the S stands for stale, minimal innovation.
Mm.
The O stands for old, long-standing business, right? It's a business that's been around, it's not going anywhere, and the W stands for weak. There's poor competition, and the S stands for simple but needed business model. And that really resonates with recession-resistant type of business, right?
Yes.
And then she goes into how do you know if a business is stale? She says, do they still use a fax machine?
Yeah.
Right? Do they make you dial in a phone call to make an order, right? You can't even order that widget online. It's by phone, right? And do they have to do handwritten orders still? So that's a good indication, because basically when she finds that type of business, then she goes, well, what's the low hanging fruit where we can tack in some automation and some software that's already out there, and that makes sense. So she goes into this article, which is really good. The next thing I wanted to point out is she talks about gateway businesses. Just like gateway drugs, there's gateway businesses, and she talks about vending machines, right? I think it wasn't Warren Buffett who started with vending machines. Vending machines, super boring but very predictable, right? Is if you get a vending machine in the right location, you know how many vents it's going to do. You know that you're going to sell that water for $3 and it costs you 50 cents for that water, right? That's predictable. She talks about another gateway business, ice vending machines, laundromats, mailbox and ship centers, and then different franchise type businesses. And then she goes into other businesses like professional services. She talks about her podcast production company. She says, I own one. She talks about bookkeeping and accounting, garage pickup and junk removal, window cleaning. The list goes on and on. I'll have to give you a link to this article because I think the people who are going to watch this are going to be like, yeah, this would be pretty good to kind of spark some ideas in your mind about what businesses are out there. She talks about real estate business models, mobile home parks, RV parks, mini mailbox centers, car washes, tiny home rentals. So the list goes on and on. So I think it's really a fundamental of, there's so many people like, hey, I want to buy a business. I have no idea what type of business. I think this is a good article for people to like take a look at. And you could probably just simply go to Google and put in or YouTube search actually, and go in and put boring business framework SOWS, SOWS, and you're going to find this video, and there's some written descriptions on it too, where it's what I found. And so I was going through it and I was like, this would be a great topic because I know you admire Codie and what she's doing. And I think that all of us should watch what she's doing, not only from putting herself out there and becoming, internet famous, right? Now everybody knows who you are. So you talk about on your show, about your YouTube channel. I mean, creating content around stuff you're passionate about. So that could be a business model right there.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think Codie Sanchez is doing it right. She is wicked smart. She's also a go-giver. I think she's going to be responsible for hundreds of thousands of people probably buying boring businesses. And I think that is a mission worth doing, and I'm glad she's picked that up. I do want to go to the last one of SOWS simple. I think there's a lot of folks, again, I live in the Silicon Valley, a lot of tech companies, a lot of there's so many businesses that are simple. It's not about widgets and this or that algorithm creation and generating the next new app. There's a lot of just recession resistant businesses that are simple for people to understand.
Yeah, I mean, if you look even at a vending model, if each machine takes you about a 1 hour per week, or somebody, and you had 10 machines, and every machine netted $500, right? You do the math.
Yeah.
Yesterday, I was on a call with a gentleman, and he was really, really sharp. He was like accounting background. He's like 40 years old. He was living at home because he was very frugal, and he lived at home with his parents. He's like, I own 3 rental properties, and we're going. And he wants to buy a business, and so we're diving into the conversation. I thought it was very fascinating
Mm.
because I'm like, okay, well, what are you netting? He's like, he's got $2,500 a month from net cash flow from his 3 rental properties, which is good. Um, and then how much you make on your W-2? He's making about 70 grand a year. And then, what do you have? He had an old retirement account. And so if you have an old retirement account that is not with your current employer, that could be eligible for what's called a
Yeah.
Rob's rollover, right? You can use that money. So what better way to invest than invest in your own business using a Rob's rollover plan? So that's something I'm not an expert in. I know enough to be dangerous and point you in the right direction to somebody who can tell you if that's eligible or not. But you can use that Rob's rollover for an equity injection for
Mm.
SBA. So he had like 200 grand sitting there, right? So he
Mm.
can do some damage. That's a $2 million acquisition. So, I mean, and the thing is, people go, well, how much do I qualify from an SBA standpoint? Well, it's not really
No, yeah.
qualifying, because
Yeah.
it's the business, is the cash flow going to qualify? If the cash flow
Exactly.
qualifies from a debt service coverage standpoint, you can go out with 200
Mm.
grand and do a lot of damage. You can go and replace. What I want to show people, it's not, I think the important thing is everybody right now, and I say it a lot too, is like, hey, I want quit your job. I
Mhm.
do believe that you should quit your job. I don't necessarily agree that you should do it today unless you
Yeah.
have the framework, right? The
Right.
plan. You may need that to scale up your rental portfolio, or to get the SBA financing, but that should be your ultimate plan. For this guy, I'm looking at it like he was like stuck on this $70,000 a year. And I'm
Mm.
like, look, you buy one business and that's going to replace that 70,000, right? Like, you need
Yeah.
to think like that versus like, I'm going to hold this job, and like, because you don't necessarily need that. So I
Mm.
like to help those people transition if they really want to get out of the job. I don't, usually I say, maybe you're going to stay there 12 months, 24 months, or 3 years. It's not the worst thing in the world to have fixed income coming in for
Yep.
hours work. But ultimately, our time is so much value. And
Mhm.
basically, if you're trading time for money, he's making is whatever 70,000 divided by 40 hours a week divided by
Yeah.
52 weeks. So your time per hour is the most important thing.
Totally agree. Yeah, at the end of the day, folks, I want you to check out Codie Sanchez. So he apparently has a video that references SOWS, SOWS, buying boring businesses. But in order to do that, you do need to work with the concierge to small business loans, the one and only Bo Eckstein. Where can they find you?
Please go to boexing.biz and then click on one rental at a time and schedule a call.
Very cool. Appreciate you, man.
All right. Thank you.